When I went to Denver, I knew a little bit of football. I didn't really know people and how important that aspect of this process and maintaining the culture and building the team was. And I failed, and I didn't succeed at it. And so looking at that experience has been one of the best things in my life in terms of my overall growth as a person, as a coach.
Josh McDaniels reflecting on his time with the Denver Broncos as he was introduced as the Raiders head coach. This is WiFiWillie of the Raiders Rundown. I got a lot of stuff coming up for you today. I'm going to be talking to my friend Rich, a Broncos fan of the MHRT Network, and he's going to break down what really happened in 2009-2010 when Josh McDaniels was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. A really infamous tenure. A lot of people say a lot of crap. Some people even talk about Spygate with him, and we're going to clarify everything and also get into what's to come in the future. I just want to show you guys his draft from the time that he was involved. We know he was heavily involved in personnel for the Denver Broncos. Some interesting names on here that I like already. Sean Moreno, solid running back for the Denver Broncos, and Robert Ayers, the defensive end, has had a great career in the NFL. 2009 free agents, you gotta get stoked about Brian Dawkins. That was a move that Josh McDaniels made back then. Jabbar Gaffney, I think, was always a great contributor in New England at wide receiver. And then you have Lamont Jordan, familiar face for us Raider fans, as well as J.J. Arrington on the offensive side of the ball contributing there. 2010 draft. Everybody focuses on Tim Tebow, and I'm going to get into that with Rich a little bit later. But Demaryius Thomas, amazing wide receiver, drafted in the first round by Josh McDaniels. Also, third-round pick Eric Decker, solid wide receiver there. So interesting to see what he can do now that he has some control of the Las Vegas Raiders. Elvis Dumervil, great player there for the Broncos, along with Ty Law, the former Patriot cornerback down there. Brandon Lloyd, what's not to like about Brandon Lloyd as well? So we're going to get into so much stuff for you guys, so I hope you enjoy this interview. We are here with Rich from the MHRT Network, Denver Broncos fan, and honestly, if you are a Broncos fan watching this, go check out MHRT Network. It's a really great show. I really enjoy it. But Rich, look, you're a Broncos fan. You're going to know more than anybody. How did Josh McDaniels fit in with Denver 11, now 12 years ago, 2009, 2010? So, people could look up stuff, but who really feels the pain of a bad era other than a fan, right? So I figured you'd be the best one to talk to about how Josh McDaniels did and whether or not it was his fault why everything went south there.
Well, he certainly had free reign, so I think it would be a fair account to say that, if you're pointing blame, it'd be fair to point a good amount of it towards him. But, very similar to some of the critiques that you're hearing, through the Raiders fan base as it pertains to John Gruden and the draft picks and that kind of stuff. I would actually put the two of them on a similar level, just in terms of the amount of control that they had over the team and whatnot.
Right.
So I think that's fair. That being said, though, I actually didn't mind McDaniels overall. I just felt he was kind of prickly. That doesn't bother me that much, though, as long as you have a clear vision and expect consistency from your players.
Right.
Prickly's okay.
So, okay, but here's the main thing about Josh McDaniels, which is what everybody's talking about, is the cheating, the Spygate. So you go 6-0 in 2009, and you beat New England. You're Josh McDaniels. You beat your mentor, and it looks like they're completely on fire and the hottest team in the AFC West. And then we hear this clip from, I believe, a former player, Williams, I think that's been floating around on Twitter, who says that they got caught cheating, and that's when they stopped going 6-0, when they started losing. So do you think that had a big impact, or do you think it was actually something more football-related as to why they went south mid-year? Was it just because they weren't allowed to Spygate anymore?
Well, his timeline was a little off in the video.
Yeah.
There's a few things that were... I think someone needs to check a calendar a little bit.
Just to clarify Williams' comments on Spygate and Josh McDaniels, Rich is correct that he did get it wrong. Williams said that they went 6-0, Spygate happened, and then Josh was fired. That is incorrect. Actually, they went 6-0 Josh McDaniels' first year in 2009 before they started losing, and the Spygate scandal hadn't happened yet. In 2010, after they played the Niners, that is when Spygate happened, and there was no 6-0 win streak in the 2010 season, so he did get that incorrect. But shout out to Rich for correcting the record for us.
But aside from someone not verifying their calendar and dates and whatnot, um, yeah, I think that certainly had an impact. I mean, let's be honest. When you're able to preview a team and get a page full of notes that effectively tell you what to do and what not to do, or more importantly, when to do it, which I think is something else that a lot of people aren't necessarily factoring in as much. Yeah, that's gonna have that's gonna have an impact. I don't care who you are. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
There's there's a reason why rules exist to prevent that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard too because it's hard to give him credit then for the first 6 games. I mean, obviously he's a good coach. Like he's at least a good coordinator. We know he's a good offensive coordinator for sure. Like that is not up for debate at all whatsoever. You know, you've been leading the offense in New England, but it's hard to give him credit. And you talk about him being involved in personnel moves. Like he does bear the responsibility of all the bad personnel moves, but look, first round pick, Tim Tebow in 2010. People give him a lot of crap from that. You know, Tebow was the first attractive Christian man to get all the moms hot and heavy on CBS and Fox Sports every Sunday. I will say that. He succeeded at that. Now, about that though, people crap on the Tebow draft pick. But when I looked at the same draft in 2010, I was pulling it up. You got Demaryius Thomas in the first round.
Yep.
And Demaryius Thomas he's the shit. He's dope. So do you really think it was just a complete miss on his personnel moves, or did he have some diamonds there? Do you think?
Well, he had more than a few diamonds. I mean, that's again, my point here isn't that he made awful personnel moves, just as I don't think John Gruden for the Raiders has made awful personnel moves. I think that when you look at things in a balanced, take your Broncos or Raiders glasses off and you actually, analyze what was actually there. There was a ton of gems that came out of that era. And McDaniels was also willing to make some extremely tough decisions and do so with thinking none of it, right? And so,
Right.
for example, one thing that a lot of people give him crap for is getting rid of Jay Cutler,
Yeah. Bringing in
right?
Orton too. Yeah.
And bringing in Orton. Yeah, but at the same time, though, Cutler didn't go off and do extraordinarily well when he went to Chicago. Really, if you're going to be honest,
Yeah.
and Cutler had a reputation of basically not caring and not really putting in the work, and that's not the type of quarterback that you want leading your team. That type of attitude rubs off on the surrounding team.
And especially Cutler, the worst Cutler was in Miami. I mean, that was just like, can you retire already? Could you just quit throwing passes to these receivers who are taking hits when you just do not give a shit, right? I mean, that's how I felt about Cutler in Miami. One thing that I noticed though about McDaniels and like how he built his roster is some of these moves that happen with veterans, bringing in Brian Dawkins, Doomerville. Do you think there's something about his character? Because how do you convince a veteran to play for your team? I feel like it's hard to convince a veteran to play for your team because they know they're not getting a multi-million-dollar contract, right? So is there something about him where he can convince these veterans to come by, you think?
Well, I've heard it from, just to kind of stick to the Broncos side of the fence here. I've heard it from Shannon Sharp and several other Broncos. Dawkins has said something similar to this. I heard Doomerville in some interviews say this. Akeem Talib has also said this in some of his interviews as well. Is what you're looking for as a veteran player coming in is you're looking for a coach or someone that's on the roster or a combination of both, even where you can actually improve as a player, because at that point there you've pretty much seen it all. You are that good, and that's why people are reaching out to try and get you. So what you're hoping to get is either a player that can get you to the Super Bowl, like a Peyton Manning or someone like that, like an Aaron Rodgers, like a guy that you think that actually get you to the promised land. But then on the flip side, from a personal growth perspective, you're looking for a coach or a combination of coaches that can improve you as a player. And a
Right.
lot of these that McDaniels brought in felt that his offensive scheme was going to help improve their game so that even if they were only there for a year or two, they could move on and be better than when they came in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and then those picks end up being successful. It's interesting that those are like veteran picks on the defensive side of the ball. That sort of worked out for him, despite the fact that he's an offensive-minded coach. Just to go back to the quarterback thing, because you mentioned that, like right when McDaniels is hired, there's a dispute, right, with Jay Cutler. There's
Yep.
rumors that he wants to maybe trade Cutler to get Matt Castle, the guy who he made looked really, really great in New England when Brady was injured. And there's a problem, right? And there's a wound in the relationship that feels like it could never be resolved. And so eventually, yes, Cutler does go to the Bears. Now, Derek Carr, I mean, here's the situation. This is immediately what everybody thinks when McDaniels gets hired to the Raiders is do you think he ultimately, no matter what, and this is how a lot of QB gurus are, and they had this opinion about John Gruden, do you think he wants his own guy? Do you think at the end of the day he would rather trade some draft capital, bring in his own guy? He can get a bargain QB. He can make Matt Castle look like Tom Brady. Do you think that's his mindset going into it to this season based on his history with Denver?
It's a different NFL in today's game. I would equate it more to fitting in more with the culture these days, which is more of a microwave one where people are wanting immediate results. I think McDaniels would much prefer a slow cooker as opposed to a microwave. But let's be real, most fans aren't willing to wait that long. So I actually think that what McDaniels will appreciate with Derek Carr is he is partially mobile, but he is also accurate and a veteran, and so he is capable of digesting a playbook pretty quickly.
Right.
Also, I think what's being missed is if you look at what McDaniel's playbook is, it's quite flexible, but the vast majority of the style of plays he likes running fit Derek Carr.
Right. I
So
mean, yeah.
I actually think Carr's a great fit for McDaniels. I think that's a perfect match, and frankly, I think you saw that in the presser.
We did see that in the presser, but like as someone who has anxiety, suffers with problems like that in the presser, you read through these lines, you hear David Ziegler make comments like we're going to evaluate Carr before we, think to talk about extending him. And it is early, but like you're saying, things move fast in today's NFL. You got to make decisions really quickly. You don't have time to evaluate Derek Carr because a lot of other teams have already evaluated Derek Carr and would say, come on over, buddy. We'll give you that fat extension. So that's why I think you're right. I think everything you said is right about how Carr would fit in with McDaniels. But like I said, the anxiety and whatnot, when I hear these comments, what are you supposed to think? So thanks for joining us. So Hackett is part of Broncos staff now. So how do you feel? How's that going to go for you guys this year, you think?
Hackett, I think, fits the Denver Broncos organization pretty well, almost a perfect fit from a head coach perspective. I think he brings the outside zone run with a mix of West Coast, which is very Mike Shanahan, even his son Kyle Shanahan, and we saw a little bit of that in. I guess it would have been 2019 now would have been the last time we saw a little bit of that offensive scheme with Rich Scangarello when he was here for a few cups of coffee, and and got to install his offensive scheme. You saw how it only fits a certain style of quarterback, though. So when we had Joe Flacco here, it obviously did not fit Joe Flacco's skill sets. But then once Drew Lock stepped into that particular offensive scheme, you saw a much improved Denver Broncos offense in terms of win percentage and that sort of thing. Part of the reason for my comment, even on my previous response with regards to Derek Carr, is that I believe offensive scheme and quarterback fit matter a great deal, actually. And then I also think that your roster composition matters a great deal as well for that offensive scheme. And I think that our offensive line in particular better fits the outside zone run than it does the power hybrid atrocity that we saw from Pat Shermer.
Well, I mean, I look forward to like all these games. Like we clearly have the craziest division ever. Going to be Hackett versus McDaniels. Then we got to play. I call him Mr. Adderall Staley, and then we got Andy Reid, Mr. Panic Attack Andy Reid. But that's my salt I'll throw on the other AFC West teams before we depart. But hey, Rich, thank you for joining the show and coming by. And if you're a Denver Broncos fan, check out MHRT Network. It's a great show, great information, great analysis. So peace out, Rich. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for checking out this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like it if you watched it all the way through, and subscribe to this channel to support this channel. We are going live whenever there's breaking news, and we'll have new Raiders content and NFL content every single day. Thank you. Have a good one. This is WiFiWillie of the Raiders Rundown. Peace out.